Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt Vamani, joined by Wyatt Darby, getting ready to kick off round number 2 here in Indianapolis, Indiana, playing some Modern. Joe and I just watched a mirror Urza versus Urza, which we kind of expected to see some of that today. We also expected to see a lot of these Primeval Titan decks.
Yeah, they seem like one of the biggest gainers from Theros Beyond Death. You know, the new 2/4 Dryad kind of opening up possibilities to have a machine gun in Valakut in the main deck, and also just be another accelerant to get to fast Titans. So seems really powerful, and we're going to actually have that on camera for the first time today.
Okay.
As well as another deck that's been kind of floating around for a while. I think it's going to be playing against Red Prowess.
Okay, cool. I'm interested to see how this one goes. I know some of the decks have been playing like one Radiant Fountain in the main deck, and some of them are playing a second one in the board because the matchup is on the harder scale, I would say, and we'll see how it goes. I feel like the Titan deck. I mean, the Titan deck's so fast. I mean, and it's very powerful. I think the Red Prowess deck is like generically powerful, but not like something like, oh man, this is busted. Something needs to be banned from this deck.
Yeah, I think it's explosive, but there's a lot of ways to interact with it. You know, being able to kill creatures can cut a lot of the damage that it needs.
Yeah.
And, you know, even just being able to put blockers to buy time can be good. But the thing about Titan is it can definitely do that. I feel that it is an excellent way to prolong the game, but it's not really available on turn 2 when these prowess creatures are hitting for large chunks.
Yeah, it's interesting too. The Titan decks are able to play like the zombies from Field of the Dead as well. So the prowess creatures lose a lot of stock once the board has been completely flooded, and we'll see. So we have Will Kruger on the left with that green-white Titan deck against Chris Anderson and his mono-red prowess deck. Looks like he's on a mulligan down to 5, I believe, partner.
Yeah,
like
definitely not a ton of cards there, and really far from an ideal start. Not having the ability to find a prowess creature after a couple mulligans means a much more kind of lukewarm cycling of Crasher to start the game.
Okay. You see Will Kruger going to play one of the more busted cards, I would say, in recent memory here in Once Upon a Time for free, and he's going to find Windswept Heath. Going to fetch out there and suspend a Search for Tomorrow on turn 1, which is likely the best start he could have here in this Titan deck, green-white Titan deck.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a ton of cards, you know, that are cheap from Titan. You know, typically it takes until around turn 3 to start going off. Arboreal Grazer is another card that, not sure if Will's playing, we don't have deck lists quite yet, but can really be a house against anything that cares about attacking. We actually saw that pretty frequently in our Pioneer tournament yesterday.
Yeah, and you see Chris Anderson leads off on a Manamorphose making red-red and just has no follow-up. That's pretty bad for him. And Will Kruger going to play a Ghost Quarter here alongside that and Explore. Yeah, Will's firing off on all cylinders here. He actually picks up that Radiant Fountain. I believe it's a 1-of in his deck here today, and looks pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of strong utility and hate coming from these 1-of lands. You know, Radiant Fountain isn't quite a Bojuka Bog level of importance in the matchups that you find it, but sometimes that's all the margin you need is just the extra 2 life.
Yeah. Chris Anderson going to go ahead and activate that Sunbaked Canyon and draw a new card. He's got a lot of burn in hand, but, I mean, Will is at now 16 now, I believe, and he's got the Radiant Fountain to kind of nerf one of those spells, and he's going to be in pretty good shape here as that Search for Tomorrow is going to come off of suspension. Grab a snow-covered forest out of Will's deck, and man, he's in pretty good shape here. All right, I know you were looking through, see if there's Grazers. There's a pair of them in there in Will's deck as well. So able to soak up some damage. He actually just picks one up for the turn. Convenient that I mentioned that. So Will taps that. I believe Selesnya Sanctuary is the name of that card. You're going to go ahead and explore here and play Radiant Fountain. I'm sure Chris is thrilled about that.
Yeah, two Explorers means a pretty fast Titan possibility, and here we see just the ramp does not stop Grazer, Sakura Tribelder, and really the only thing Will's missing at this point is just some top end. You know, Summoner's Pact or the namesake Primeval Titan would both do it, and it's even pretty close to the amount of mana to do something like Once Upon a Time, find a Titan and cast it all in the same turn.
Yeah, so he's ramped up pretty well here. I think they're double-checking to make sure Will has not played a land for the turn, and he has not, so that Prismatic Vista is able to come in. Hey, there's Monastery Swiftspear.
Yeah, right in time to get blocked up by the O3.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and attack in, and going to block with the O3. I mean, this is really bad for Chris. And he's going to pay life for the gut shot. And that's gonna get rid of the Arboreal Grazer, but I mean he's still got another blocker to slog through, which is quite annoying.
Yeah, pretty brutal to have to spend a card just to clear the way.
Yeah.
Chris did have some options to fire multiple burn spells upstairs, and he's actually willing to concede Summoner's Pact will lead into a Primeval Titan, and that takes us to game 2 here.
Yeah, so Will Kruger going to use that Summoner's Pact, going to go search out a Primeval Titan, and as you mentioned, Chris scoops him up rather quickly there. It's, on a mulligan to 5, it's pretty tough when your opponent has the perfect curve. I'm sure Will wished he had that when Chris had 7 cards, the perfect curve. But at any rate, picks up a W in game number 1. And we'll check out the sideboards here for these guys. I'm going to look at Chris's sideboard here first and see if it gets any better. He's got a pair of Flame Slash and Anger of the Gods. He's got 2 Smash of Smithereens, 2 Shrine of Burning Rage, 2 Experimental Frenzy. That's a good one. 2 Dragon's Claw, 3 Blood Moon, okay, and a Seasoned Pyromancer.
Well, yeah, Blood Moon seems great.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at how many basics Will has in his deck list, not that many. We have, I think, 2 snow-covered forests, 2 basic forests, and 1 plain.
Yeah.
So actually a little bit more than kind of traditional Amulet Titan. Chris is playing a little bit more of a green-white Ramp Titan deck. So he's a little bit less vulnerable to the card, but I still think Blood Moon is excellent at kind of shutting off the utility and,
Sure.
and in fact, a lot of the payoffs for what Will's trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. Those are certainly going to come in. As far as the rest of the stuff, not really a big fan. The Shrine is one of those like medium cards, but I think it's just too slow in the matchup. And Will probably has like some sort of, he has probably some amount of like Reclamation Sage, maybe even one in the main deck or something, and that's just a beating. So.
Yeah, and actually, in terms of who's getting more from the sideboards, it looks like Will actually has a lot more going for him here.
Okay.
With 3 copies of Path to Exile, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Rest in Peace, 3 Aven Mind Sensor, 2 Tireless Tracker, a Reclamation Sage, and 2 Veil of Summer.
Yeah.
The thing that really stands out, those 5 removal spells up top, Path and Celestial Purge, just flexible, cheap, and the kind of interaction he needs to make sure he doesn't get run over by the early prowess creatures.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we mentioned how reliant Chris is on these creatures to deal through the extra damage with the prowess triggers. So the paths and the purges are a big deal.
Yeah, and beyond that, I don't see a ton that's particularly interesting. Sometimes the prowess decks have copies of Bedlam Reveler and Lava Dart. They care about the graveyard, but falls well short of really wanting to hate that out with a card like Rest in Peace. So yeah I think Will's just going to cut a little bit maybe more of the kind of clunky part of the deck. The more expensive ramp spells might be able to go here.
Yeah.
And just try and get lean and mean as possible. And honestly, that game 1 was a bit of a gift. Chris kind of looked more like a Storm deck, just cantripping up for his first 2 turns, kind of setting up more than really executing.
Yeah, definitely wasn't great. We mentioned some of the newer cards here, like Dryad of the Elysian Grove. That card is, that's really changed. Obviously, it makes this green-white deck a possibility. They're able to play Valakut in the green-white base shell, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, this card has turned Primeval Titan into also a better Inferno Titan and a Grave Titan, right? The fact that it's a Prismatic Omen that's green is excellent. It's a creature. You can fetch it with Summoner's Pact and Once Upon a Time, but it also ramps. So, you don't even have to play Azusa anymore if you don't want to.
There's no Azusa,
and the body's great. The 2/4 really kind of slots in naturally with the deck trying to get itself to 6 mana and buy itself time. And
All right, sounds like we're going to jump down into the game that's already started. Looks like there was Chris Anderson goes ahead and plays a Soulscar Mage on turn 1, and then Will is able to fire off Once Upon a Time, probably finds that Primeval Titan, and then suspends a Search for Tomorrow again.
Yeah, so pretty ideal starts for both players. Chris being on the play, would love to see maybe a second Prowess Creature, Monastery, Swiftspear, and some burn to really get the clock going.
Yeah. There's a Lava Spike. We're going to go down to 17 here. Looks like Chris going to fire off a Gut Shot as well. We're going down to 16. And then you take a pretty decent-sized chunk from that Soulscar Mage.
Yeah, and Chris's hand after that, kind of lukewarm. Multiple cycling or Canopy Lands, and a Bedlam Reveler that currently cost 6. The Horizon lands are fantastic in this red prowess deck. You want to play a really low land count, and you also kind of flood sometimes. So they're going to have to do some serious work to make sure Chris has enough gas to finish here.
Yeah, and Will says plays Bajuka Bog and says Bog you. Chris plays Fiery Islet and draws a card. Hey, double Swiftspear, that's not bad. So we're going to go down to 10 here, and Will's in danger. But he's still ramping along here, able to get that Search for More off suspend, and man, he's got another Sakura Tribe Elder, and that card is so annoying against these mono red prowess decks. Gets to soak up a ton of damage, and then also is obviously ramping Will, which is his primary game plan.
Yeah, it just kind of it checks all the boxes, right? It gives you kind of a critical density of speed bumps along with Arboreal Grazer, and it's a card that is a little bit better kind of independent of what the rest of your hand is. You know, unlike Grazer, you don't have to have kind of an excess of lands to really make sure it does exactly what it needs to.
Man, that art is cool. I don't think I've ever seen that Commander 19 art of Sakura Tribe. Have you seen that before?
I have not. I tend not to dabble too much in Commander art, but they do have some sweet reprints sometimes.
That's cool. You see, for 2 mana, it's a 1/1, so it's pretty bad on its own, but once you read the text box, you get the feeling of what's going on. So you're able to sacrifice Sakura Tribe Elder, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle your library. So multi-purposed here for Will. Obviously, his primary game plan, again, of ramping is the name of the game, but then he also gets to chump block, and wow, he has a pair of them, so able to chump block and soak up some damage against these aggressive decks.
Yeah, being able to set up the possibility of Primeval Titan next turn really nicely. You know, they don't line up fantastic against the prowess creatures if Will was in trying to kill the prowess creatures, but that's not really what the Tribe Elder's for, so would not be surprised to see a double block and sack action here.
I'm just looking through. Will does have 1 Blast Zone. That's the card I was really looking for, to see if he's able to get it out with Primeval Titan, and he does have 1 in the main deck here. Will's going to go ahead and chump both of these. All right, so Will's going to grab a couple lands out of his deck, a Plains and a Forest. He's up to 6 mana here, which is a convenient number.
Yeah, you know, we talked a bit about Blood Moon in the sideboard, but if you're Chris and you have 3 Blood Moons in your deck to draw, and you see, was that 5 different basics in play? Does it kind of maybe give you some pause for how the third game might go in terms of sideboarding?
It's like, what do I do here? All right, and Chris knew about that Primeval Titan from very early on in the deck, in the game, and Will's going to go ahead and cast it. And there's a Field of the Dead. This is pretty good here from Will. So he's already fetched out 7 unique land types, and he's paid the additional mana here. Man, he is really on all cylinders here, and
it almost feels like cheating that snow-covered lands count for a Field of the Dead.
It's so annoying. So I'm going to make 4 zombies, and again, just going to gum up the board, and now Chris is basically stuck with the point where he has to deal 8 points of damage, and that Primeval Titan, if it attacks, is going to be able to fetch out the Hallowed Fountain, and the game's probably going to be over with.
Yeah, it just kind of lets you play offense and defense, and it just sort of, having the extra blockers behind, just gives Primeval Titan the flexibility to be able to attack, and just a pretty wild addition, and allows these Titan decks to kind of just shift roles pretty effortlessly. Having such a free roll, powerful, inevitable win con, just a great year for Titan decks.
Oh, yeah, they've gotten tons of new tools, and Will untaps really quickly here, and no packs to pay for, anything like that. Finds a Druid this turn, too. Now Valakut is going to be on board here. This deck does some things, man. This deck does some serious things. So, and another Summoner's Pact? I mean, come on. Or another Primeval Titan? This game, we're done here.
I'm pretty bad at multiplying by 3, but I suspect this is going to end up being enough here, because Primeval Titan can fetch all the remaining Valakuts from Will's deck. He only does play 2, but with a couple of bounce lands in hand, he has a lot of land drops to make sure. Should be, I think, pretty close to 18 damage just with those Valakut triggers this turn.
Pretty rough stuff, man. Oh, goodness. All right, so we're going to grab Valakut. It looks like, is that a Prismatic Vista? Yep. Man, that's a beating. And Will's trying to count up, how can I do 1 billion damage this turn?
Yeah, I love the synergy between bounce lands and fetch lands. You can pick up the Vista, play it for your Dryad, get a bunch of Valakut triggers, fetch again, double down on that. And I think that puts Will well over. Chris firing off a Lightning Bolt just because you want to, get as many spells cast before you have to leave the feature match area here. And Will just kind of has put on a dominant performance in a game where Chris has played a lot more closer to his kind of average level here.
Yeah, you got to get your achievements done. You got to cast his 30 red spells. So Will only attacking with the Titan actually leaves Chris alive here, I think. And now he's going to be able to bounce and, kill him with the Valakut triggers. So Chris Anderson going to take a loss there to the green-white Titan deck from Will Kruger. Did some pretty powerful stuff. So Will's no stranger to the NRG series here. You can see 20-year-old student from Elmhurst, Illinois. He actually attends Illinois State University and travels with me to quite a bit of events. So MTGO Modern and Pauper Challenge wins. Regular MTGO Modern Trophy leader. I believe he is currently the Modern Trophy leader, but he's been playing this Green-White Titan deck a bit, but mostly Eldrazi is his weapon of choice.
Yeah, and I said it yesterday, but it's doubly impressive to be the Modern Trophy leader when you're doing it with Eldrazi. I think that's the equivalent of one hand behind your back magic.
Yeah. All right. He's got no pet peeves. I find that hard to believe. I find that very hard to believe. Maybe he's only 20, though, so maybe they develop as you get a little bit older. I don't know.
I feel like you just haven't found stuff truly annoying yet if you haven't. Like, for me, not to be too far off out of line, but, hand attack, people saying hand attack, that one has really gotten to me
Hand
lately.
attack, that's interesting.
Yeah, just discard. It's
Wow.
been discard for years.
Just discard, yeah. Huh. All right, my big one is like chewing on the fork. You ever heard like people that bite the fork? You like that?
Oh, yeah.
That one's bad. That's a bad pet peeve. All right, another couple things about Will here. Started playing Magic with Elves versus Goblins dual deck, and he is a Hamilton soundtrack sing-along enthusiast. Those are some interesting facts there. So let's see. We might have a backup match, I think, is what's going to go on here. I'm just looking through here. So we've got Sam Kupperwitz is playing. This is just the Storm deck, just regular old Is It Storm, against Sam Grabner, who is playing, this looks like Bant Snowblade. Yeah, it looks like Bant Snowblade here. So this is an interesting deck list for me. I actually played something similar to this at the team event several weeks ago, but that was when Oko was still in the format. And Oko looks like it's been replaced straight up here with Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath.
Yeah, Uro is a pretty interesting inclusion in this deck. It has, the big jump. We've mostly seen Uro in Pioneer thus far, but the big jump from Pioneer to Modern is the addition of fetch lands, making it much more realistic to load up your graveyard, even if you're not casting a bunch of spells that replace themselves. There are some cards in Samuel's deck that can still do that. Icefang Coatl is excellent at trading. I suspect there's some cantrips like Serum Visions or cheap, removal spells like Path to Exile. So, yeah, I think that it's a pretty I think it's a nice dimension to have to your deck as well.
Okay.
Leaning into the graveyard a little bit more and giving yourself a finisher that can go well over the top if you're playing grindy battles.
Yeah, this looks very similar to the deck I played, as I mentioned. I actually played on camera against Daniel D'Amato. He actually played Storm, and I felt like I couldn't lose. I had a bunch of mana leaks, a bunch of Force of Negation. That's the big one. So just taking a peek here through Sam's deck, he's got... And the Path to Exiles are also very good against the mana accelerants in the creatures. Sam Grabner is on, looks like 2 mana leaks, 3 Force Negations, and 2 Cryptics. That's a lot of counter magic for the Storm deck to fight through. And again, the Force of Negation against Past in Flames is a big deal.
Yeah, being able to tap out for a card like Uro with not really any worry, I think it's a big deal for these Bant decks. It just makes sure that you can get the pressure first. I think it's kind of interesting. Is It Storm? It's a deck that's floated around in Modern for a long time without a ton of changes.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping to see if people could find a way to build Underworld Breach into the deck.
Yeah.
Looks like it hasn't quite happened yet with Samuel, but maybe something. It doesn't really jive well with Gifts Ungiven, I think, is the big thing, because unlike Past in Flames, it does something from your hand or the graveyard. Breach kind of specifically has to be in your hands.
Right, and I see obviously we have a Samuel mirror match this round, which is quite entertaining here. So Sam Grabner is going to just pass back with a couple mana available, and Sam Kupperwitz is going to be able to fire off a few spells here with this Baral Chief of Compliance. Very important for these Storm decks to have a mana accelerant in either Goblin Electromancer or Baral Chief of Compliance on turn 2. And Samuel looks like to have it, and obviously plenty of lands to start going through his deck here.
Yeah, it's tough. As capable as Bant Snowblade is at applying some sort of a clock, Stoneforge Mystic doesn't really start the action off until turn 3 at the earliest. So it's gonna be some time before there's a real serious threat on our Storm player's life total, and here we see Batterskull getting put in at the end of turn here.
Yeah, there's a Batterskull, and actually Sam Grabner has a Force of Negation and several blue cards in hand, so he's actually just like pretty clear for takeoff. He's going to smash in with this Batterskull, go back up to 21. Send it back to Sam Kupperwitz. Yeah, I like Sam Grabner's position from here. Again, he has the Force of Negation. He also has a Path to Exile if he wants to cut off this Baral. It's pretty tough. Storm is not a deck that I would lineup to play in Modern right now at this point. I've heard it's good against the Titan decks, but that remains to be seen from me.
Yeah, it makes sense that Storm is an interesting combo deck. It can be interacted with on basically every axis, creature removal, counter magic, discard. But if you're playing just a pure race, it is a deck that can be capable of killing on turn 3. So that makes sense to have it be the kind of combo decks to beat other combo decks. But we'll see how well that actually plays out over the course of this tournament.
Yeah, I like this. So there's a Pyretic Ritual on the stack, and Sam Gravener going to go ahead and fire off Path to Exile, targeting that the Baral Chief of Compliance. And Sam Kupperwitz is going to try and storm off here in response. And he's got cards to do it. I mean, he's got quite a bit going on. All right. I think the storm count's up to 4 now at this point. Keep track at home, and here comes the dice for the storm counter. And this Baral, I think, is going to bite the dust. In just a second. The thing is, Sam Kupperwitz actually has another Baral Chief of Compliance in hand, too, so go ahead and Desperate Ritual.
Yeah, a lot of action from Sam Kupperwitz, but kind of the danger here is walking yourself in a position where you kind of need that Past in Flames to go off from here. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, he's cast a lot of cards already, but, buying back all the cantrips, Manamorphosing again is, he's probably going to be in a situation where he fizzles kind of half-storming, and that's brutal. Storm's a deck that kind of is all or nothing in its combos. Without something like Empty the Warrens to hedge a little bit and at least have a battlefield left over, this can be a really devastating turn. Yeah,
he's definitely going to need it here, and I mean, he's got Grape Shot, Past in Flames, and Baral Chief of Compliance left over, and that's just not enough against Sam Gravener's hand. All right, so there comes that Baral. And Sam Gravener says, yeah, that's cool. And then here comes Past in Flames, and this one's going to meet a Force of Negation, I am sure. And there's a Force Negation pitching a Snapcaster Mage, and that one's exiled, and that is. Now he's gonna have to just gonna go for a Grape Shot here. I would say mini, but it's still for 9. He's gonna have to maybe clear the board out. This is pretty tough for Sam Kupperwitz.
Yeah, it's the awkward kind of sweep your board, Grape Shot, deal you 4. It's really been kind of mitigated by the Batter Skull gaining 4 life has been a big deal already, and it's going to give Samuel Gravener a lot of time to kind of just build his own board back up.
All right, so it looks like Sam Kupperwitz is actually going to kill both creatures and then deal the rest at Sam Gravener. I believe Sam Gravener is only going down to like 17 here. That does not seem fantastic. And that Baral just entered the battlefield this turn. The other one was Path to Exiled. And then Sam Gravener going to fetch out at the end step here. I would assume that this the Ice Fang Kotal is getting ready to hit the battlefield.
Yeah, looking a little bit anemic as a Death Toucher with exactly 0 other snow permanents in play, but that's fine. It's a body that can hold the Batter Skull, and replacing itself right away is kind of all Sam Gravener needs it to be. Yeah,
and he's going to go ahead and draw a new card with that as well. That card's really multifaceted and definitely one of the cards that makes these Bant control decks or these Bant snow decks actually viable nowadays. And one of the new ones from, I believe, Modern Horizons is the set that came from. So you can see Sam Gravener actually going to find another land here, and he finds Jace the Mind Sculptor, which he held on to. He had kind of the choice between pitching that or pitching the Snapcaster Mage to the Force Negation, and finds Jace the Mind Sculptor more beneficial, so hangs on to it and gets paid off by hitting the 4th land here.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, Sam Gravener kind of has everything he needs already. Not actually choosing to brainstorm. Fate Seal is perfectly fine. He's got the battlefield on lockdown. The life total is going to be plummeting pretty quickly with the Batter Skull, maybe hopping onto the Ice Fang Kotal. And if anything, sometimes Storm does have copies of Lightning Bolts floating around their main deck, and you don't really want to expose your Jace to that kind of random kill.
Yeah. So Sam puts that one on the bottom there. Yeah, Sam Gravener, this one's basically, we're basically in garbage time here. I think Storm deck has a hard time rebuilding from 0, basically, what they're at. And he's going to need like another Past in Flames, and he's going to need it to, he's really going to need a lot of help, though. And Sam Gravener has another Ice Fang Kotal in hand. How many Past in Flames are in this deck?
It looks like 2 copies, yeah.
Yep.
So, another Past in Flames, if it was able to slip through, could do a lot of work with Brawl in play.
Yeah.
But it's just the Path to Exile is going to cut that out, and there's also, I think, a Cryptic Command hanging out in Sam Gravener's hand, too.
All right. All right. Yep, another Path to Exile pick up there for Sam Gravener. Coming in for few more turns left, and I had the privilege of resolving my first Jace the Mind Sculptor several weeks ago, and that card is powerful.
Yeah, if you weren't around for it the first time, it's it's not quite as dominant as it was in 2010 or whatever, but it's still, I don't know, it just still kind of hits all the right notes for me.
Yeah. It was the first time I ever resolved one, and I was like, okie dokie. It's pretty powerful. Four abilities. That +2 is called the Fate Seal ability. Look at the top card of target player's library. You can look at your own or your opponent's. You may put that card on the bottom of their library if you choose, which is pretty powerful. The 0 is the Brainstorm effect, where you get to draw 3, put 2 back. The -1 is returning target creature to its owner's hand. And then the Game Breaker, the -12. Exile all cards from target player's library. Then the player shuffles their hand into their library. So Sam Kupperwitz has 1 card, I believe, and that would be his library if a few turns down the line here. But I think the Snake Beatdown is going to win the race.
Yeah, the wild thing about Jace is, can you believe they didn't put a passive on this thing?
It's unbelievable.
How did they expect it to be playable out of the box without, your opponent's Jace not being able to draw cards or something?
Yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal stuff. And card designs come a long way. All right, so Sam Gravener going to attack for 2 more points here. And Sam Kupperwitz going to Serum Visions and kind of flail around a couple more turns here until these snakes end up doing their job.
No, not a bad couple cards on top, though. Past in Flames and Manamorphose can start to give Sam Kupperwitz a little bit of traction, but still without a cost reducer in play. He might actually have made enough land drops to have room to do all of it, but again, it's vulnerable to just any amount of disruption.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think he left that on top. Does he have another way to draw cards? Okay, I hope he has another way to draw cards, because you don't want to leave that on top with Jace looming. And he has, but goes for Passive Flames and says, no, all right, and wraps it up. So Sam Gravener goes ahead and picks up game number 1 against Sam Kupperwitz, and kind of went the way I thought it would go. Again, I mentioned how good Force of Negation is in this matchup, and we saw just how powerful it was. Sam Kupperwitz tried to go off on a turn, played a ton of spells, and normally that's good enough against someone who's tapped out. I believe Sam Gravener was tapped out at the time, and just not good enough against Force of Negation. So on Kupperwitz's side, what's he got over there?
Yeah, pretty diverse sideboard. We have one-ofs of Abrade, Shenanigans, Dispel, Dismember, and Wipe Away to go along with 2 copies of Factor Fiction, 3 Aria of Flame, 3 Lightning Bolts, and 2 Empty the Warren.
Okay.
So what pops out to me, just any way to grind. Factor Fiction, or Fact of Fiction, a recent edition for Modern Horizons, and it seems like it's replaced pieces of the puzzle as the kind of go-to big card advantage card in store.
Sure. How do you feel about something like Aria of Flame in this matchup? That's kind of a way to grind. I don't know. I feel like that's something you want to resolve and stick down here, but I'm not 100% on it.
It's real awkward against Teferi.
true.
Baby Teferi offering bounces or Big Teferi tucking it can be pretty brutal. You're spending 3 mana at sorcery speed, so there's all kinds of counter magic problems. I suspect it's a card that you might still want, but it seems like it's got a lot of kind of fail rates, as a real possibility.
Cool. So on Sam Gravener's side, there's a pair of Veil Summers, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Core Firewalker, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Ashiok Dreamrender, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Mystical Disputes, and then a one-of an extra Batterskull and a Timely Reinforcements. So interesting stuff here for him. Mystical Dispute is one of those interesting ones. I don't think he's going to want. I don't know. It's close. Rest in Peace shuts off half of the combo, and I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things in this matchup.
Yeah, Mystical Disputes, it's an interesting one. It's kind of a removal spell for the Accelerant creatures. It can also tag a Gifts Ungiven later. So it seems like something that I might be interested in. Disdainful Stroke also hits both, Gifts and Past in Flames. Veil of Summer can actually stop Gifts Ungiven. So there's a lot of things. I would imagine that Samuel is going to just kind of do some light touches, maybe a little bit of Graveyard Hate, 2 or 3 extra counter spells, and in terms of what he doesn't want, I suspect it's going to be some of the kind of bigger top end stuff. I'm not sure how good Jace is in this matchup on balance or stuff like that.
Not great, yeah. So let's take a peek at Sam Graebner. He plays a bunch here on our series. He's 29, a graphic designer from Gales Ferry, Connecticut, I believe. He's also relocated to the Chicagoland area. 2 NRG series top 8s. He's on a decent track to get another one today. Almost, working his way towards a 2-0 here. No W's yet, but in 2018 of January, top 8 appearance there. July 2017, top 4. And again, another person with the SCG Indy Open top 8 or top 4 in his case. We mentioned that this is a place that's pretty familiar to most of these players. Indy not too far away from our home base in Chicago, and players really familiar with the area.
Yeah, lots of great tournaments in the Midwest, and Indy's definitely been no exception for that. SCG kind of makes it a regular occurrence, and the NRG series, we're starting to kind of dip our toes into this area as well. So, definitely a lot of new players for us kind of able to make it out with us going a little bit further east. And, nice to see some of our kind of more local folks making the drive, too. Yeah,
and in the Fast Facts there, you see enjoys writing and has published a book of poetry. That's kind of interesting. Favorite deck? Esper Dragons in Standard. That deck was awesome. Silumgar Scorn was like one of my favorite cards ever. Counterspell? Come on.
Yeah, you didn't even, it was a counterspell that showed you, you're just going to die in 2 turns.
Yeah.
So it had some crazy rub-ins. And I don't know, I appreciate control decks that don't take 50 minutes to close. I much prefer they more look like Esper Dragons than Elixir Blue-White Control,
definitely,
for example. So, I think it's a pretty solid choice for favorite deck.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to hop down to game number 2 for these guys. Something I was looking through when you were talking about the sideboard there for Sam Kupperwitz. We mentioned Empty the Warrens being a card that's actually pretty decent against these blue-white decks. There looks like there's a total of 0 in here. Oh, there's 2. There's 2 in the sideboard, actually. I'm sorry. So that's a card that's definitely pretty good against these blue-white decks, blue-white-based control decks.
Yeah, it can sort of force your opponent into either leaving in a sometimes dead Supreme Verdict or kind of getting caught with not much counterplay to, even just a mini Storm turn that makes 8 or 10 goblins.
All right, you see a fight going to happen over this Rest in Peace. Sam Graebner holds on to it so he can have Mystical Dispute. He goes ahead and he's going to Rest in Peace here. It's going to meet a remand from Sam Kupperwitz, and then it looks like Sam Graebner is going to Veil of Summer that one. Okie dokie. And then Rest in Peace is going to trigger, and wow. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful exchange there. Rest in Peace coming down, turning off the Passive Flames in Sam Kupowitz's hand. And, kind of curious there when with the forest being fetched, Veil of Summer not really on my mind. And here we saw it does more than just counter Gifts Ungiven. Remand is a pretty frequent card in these Storm decks as well. So, I think heads up sideboarding by Sam Graebner, and it tagged almost exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah, Veil of Summer is one of those cards. It's just omnipresent in most formats. That it's any format it was legal in, it was omnipresent. And it's a really good card, and especially these Bant Snowblade decks, they don't have to play things like Dispel. They can find they get to play 1-mana Cryptic Command instead.
Yeah, Mystical Dispute and Veil of Summer are kind of wild color hosers, and the fact that these Bant Snowblade decks have access to both of them can really be a big part of just making a lot of matchups generically at least kind of good.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so Sam Kupperwitz going to try and spin the tires a little bit here. Going to sleight of hand to start us off. Rest in Peace. Yes, that's the one. That's another reason why Empty the Warrens is a big deal here. If your opponent is playing like these graveyard hate cards like that, you want to have a way around them. Sam Graebner going to go ahead and activate that Stoneforge Mystic, put Batterskull in play again here. And he's firing in on all cylinders.
Yeah, I just love these 3-color all-basics decks with Blood Moon.
It's so silly.
I think Arkham's Astrolabe, it's gotten a lot of respect lately, but I think the card is actually tracking a lot closer to something like, Ponder in terms of its power level. And, that kind of makes you wonder if we're more likely to see Arkham's Astrolabe leave Modern at some point or get those other, really powerful cantrips back in.
I mentioned I played this deck, and you can just, it's so stupid with the Snake also, with the Icefang Kotal. You can disguise it pretty well, too. I remember I had a turn where it was double Snow-Covered Island and an Astrolabe. My opponent attacks a Death Shadow into me, and I'm like, okay, well, here's this Snake. And they're like, how is that I didn't even know that was coming. And I'm like, that's the point. It's pretty good. So, A mystical dispute here on a Fact or Fiction for Sam Krepowitz. And Sam Graebner's deck is really just operating on all cylinders this match.
Yeah, the clock's ticking. Batter Skull's already been established. Counterspell still left in Sam Graebner's hand, and a solid chunk of the Storm deck is kind of being locked out by virtue of that Rest in Peace. So really, the time's now, and it's got even the Cryptic in the all basics.
Yeah, I was going to mention that Sam Graebner had his 2 islands tapped. He actually didn't have the requisite colors available for Cryptic Command, but with the help of Astrolabe, it just doesn't matter. You tap whatever you want.
Yeah, really a godsend to the occasionally sloppy players like myself out there.
Yeah. All right, there's a Goblin Electromancer for Sam Krepowitz.
Yeah, an interesting spot. Not much of a need for Sam Graebner to act on that. With a removal spell in hand and Path to Exile, he can, just fire that off immediately. And, Sam Krepowitz understanding the writings on the wall, and, once you have the Accelerant, you kind of have to take your best shot.
Gotta go. Yeah, you gotta go for it. It does not feel great, but... All right, and this Electromancer is going to meet a Path to Exile, it looks like. Maybe. All right, so Sam Krepowitz is going to go ahead and fire off a Ritual again here, try and make some mana. All right. Storm counts up to 4. Path to Exile is going to resolve here, so Sam Krepowitz is going to grab an island out of his deck. Shuffle up, and the Storm is going to continue just a little bit longer here. But you mentioned Sam Graebner does have this Cryptic Command hanging out in his hand, so not too worried.
Yeah, Cryptic, pretty powerful, but also not very efficient against Remand. So that's probably going to be the big thing here if Sam Krepowitz can leverage that just mana advantage he can find this turn. But yeah, casting that extra Ritual before the Electromancer die was kind of his declaration of, I think I have to combo this turn, and I'm going to try my best to do it right now.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Sam Krepowitz has, I believe he has Past in Flames in hand, and with that Rest in Peace, I mean, just like, what are we really doing anymore? Yeah, Sam Krepowitz trying to figure out a way to win the game from here. He's got a Gifts Ungiven in hand, but I don't see a route where he's going to be able to pick up the victory.
Yeah, the mana is a real constraint at this point with no cost reducers in play. Casting Gifts with 3 left over is a really small margin.
And here comes Cryptic Command for Sam Graebner. Going to counter that Gifts Ungiven. And that one hits the Exile. And then there's Grape Shot. I believe there's 7 Storm at this point.
Yeah, kind of second verse, same as the first. This is almost exactly what we saw game 1. Sam Krepowitz having kind of a mini Storm turn that ended up with a counter spell and just a couple, anemic removal spells with the Grape Shot. So Sam Graebner has plenty to close the game. It's just going to take, maybe a turn or so to kind of redeploy and reestablish his board.
Yeah, just going to be a couple more turns, and Sam Graebner is going to finish us off here shortly. So got a Jason hand. I believe he has a Teferi Time Raveler as well. I mean, it's just, the writing's basically on the wall here. All right, Sam Graebner going to go ahead and deploy. What's he got there? He's got a Stoneforge Mystic hanging out. He's got the second Batter Skull. All right.
Yeah, Sword and Feast of Famine kind of doing wonders here to enable a card like Jace to be cast in the same turn with counter magic up, and that's sort of where the Stranglehold completely locks you down. Yeah,
all right, and Sam Krepowitz going to scoop him up and say, you know what, we're good here. No big deal. So Sam Graebner going to pick up a win, go to 2-0 with that Bant Snowblade deck. I think the deck's very good. There's a lot of individually powerful cards is what makes it so good. Obviously, the Planeswalkers are good. Stoneforge Mystic in combination with the equipments is pretty nice, and Icefang Kotal is very good against the more attacking decks. If there's like Death Shadow, we watched the Prowess deck. I mean, you maul that with the snakes most of the time. So Sam Graebner going to pick up a W here and move to 2-0. If you want to check out deck lists or anything, I saw a few people in the Twitch chat asking about that, or you want to know when our next tournaments are, updates to content, stay connected. Check us out, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.com/NRG series. You can find all kinds of sweet photos from the event there, too. Make them your profile picture. I definitely have been known to do that. NerdrageGaming.com, you can check us out. You want to find the deck lists again. I believe top 16 from yesterday is being hacked away right now by Max Khan, and he will do the same for Modern today, and we're going to bring you those 32 deck lists. We're going to take a short break here. We got about 5 minutes left in the round. I'm going to get out of here, and in round 3, you're going to have Wyatt and Joe, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.